So let's begin. I would just invite you to take 3 breaths with me. We'll do this as a group. We'll breathe in and we'll breathe out, and we'll just make a lot of sound on the out breath. We'll do 3 breaths in a moment, and just the intention behind this is to conspire. Conspiracy means to breathe together. And the intention behind that conspiracy can be all kinds of different things. So the intention here is to connect us to the sound current, to connect us to our innermost soul, and to each other and to the cosmos. So with this intention, let's just breathe together. We'll take 3 holy breaths. Breathing in. Thank you. So, Nada Brahma. Nada in Sanskrit means the sound of God, Brahma, the creator. Nada is the sound or flow, as in water, the Tao, the way that water moves. And Brahma is considered the all-creator. Water, the source of life, it's what makes us alive. It's what makes this earth alive. We're 75+% water. This is one of my CDs exposed to water and then photographed. This is water being vibrated at different frequencies. This is sand being vibrated at certain frequencies, showing the same geometry of water. So the shape of water, this kind of beehive, hexagonal shape, is the underlying geometry of the universe. These are different notes being vibrated at different tones. This is love and gratitude written on a piece of paper exposed to water. This is the Sri Yantra, which we'll talk about in a minute. And this is the 64 cube octahedron, which our friend Nassim is a physicist. Nassim Haramein has shown that the structure of the space-time is very similar to the structure of water, much more complex and multidimensional. It's another image of that. And we can see the similarity to one of the oldest mandalas in the world, considered the Sri Yantra, or the sound of Om. And the reason that I'm sharing this with you is, and you'll see how it relates in a moment to the Nada Brahma, which is the focus of today's topic, the sound current, the sound underlying all of the creation. I just want to read you a little bit. The Sri Yantra symbolizes the unfoldment of creation. Yantra means the absorber of cosmic energy, like a tuning fork connecting us to universal consciousness. And this very center, like a bindu, they call it, is the unmanifest, the silent state. This is beyond the sound, before the sound. If any of you saw Don Estes' talk, it's kind of like that center of the torus that is the 0 dimension. And this comes from the Vedic tradition, thousands of years old in India, and they considered the sound vibrations are geometry. So this was a symbolic representation of the sound vibration, which they called the Ohm vibration. The Ohm geometry is another word. And this was used to meditate on, to connect us to the supreme soul of the universe, to connect us to the creator element. This I'm showing you because I want to just speak a little bit on my background, because it'll help you understand why I'm standing here and why the Aboriginals. So the Aboriginals believe, like every culture in the world, that the world was, the universe, all of creation, began with sound, with vibration. But actually behind that is intention. So even if God said, let there be light, there's the intention to say something, even precedes the spoken word. So even though there's vibration, the intention rides that carrier wave into manifestation. So that's why, you know, when I worked with sound, I don't say, well, this note is for this chakra, or this note is for this ailment, or this, you know, specific is this for specific, because it's the intention that carries that frequency into the manifested form or outcome. So that's why we can have, someone has their root chakra affected by the note C, or someone it might be F sharp, or infinite variations of vibratory tones in between those. So there's no one box to put anything in when we start to explore this realm. And that's why in this field it's endlessly fascinating. I've never been bored. I'm a person who doesn't like to be bored, and I think that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'll always be an eternal student. There's just no end to the learning that takes place when you delve into the world of sound and vibration and the matrix of creation. So my experience, I'm going to make it brief because I don't want to focus on that too much. There's a lot of material to cover. But, you know, when I was a kid, music was my love. I was given lessons, and my parents didn't have to make me play piano or practice flute. It's like I did it because it was my medicine. I was naturally a very shy person, so I would go off to go play piano when all the family was meeting or there was social gatherings. And actually, I still consider myself a pretty inward, shy person, but this is my dharma, so I'm here. But that was my way of kind of retreating and nurturing myself. But I never saw it as a career. I didn't want to go and perform, you know, piano or any of the instruments I was studying, because I didn't like people looking at me. So, especially when I was doing something so sacred. So I didn't follow that path, and I went through, I was in college studying molecular biology and pre-med. So I figured, well, my dad was a doctor, I'll be a doctor. And because I knew I wanted to help people and be of service, and it was just kind of, well, someone's got to be a doctor in the family. So what I ended up doing was, in the final semester of my schooling, just poised to graduate, I had this experience, and I didn't have any language for it at the time. But after that, I called it my awakening, because it was the absolute beginning of my life. This was in '92. And I started to read voraciously, and I found a book by Raymond Moody called Life After Life. And I realized, oh, this was a near-death experience. I had no language for it. I had no foundation for this experience whatsoever. So I started to read, study, and just go in a whole different direction. There's no way I was going to continue on the path I was on of education and medical school and all of that. So I was about a month after this experience, I knew I had to graduate, but I didn't know why. And the reason became obvious. I found the didgeridoo. I was walking to class one day, melting into the trees on the way to organic chemistry, because I was completely not in my body for a long time after this experience. I'm trying to get to class because I got to finish. I'm not going to use this degree. Why do I have to go? Spirit's telling me to go. And there was a lady on campus, and she had this instrument, looked like one of these long tubes lying next to her. I was magnetically drawn to it, and I said, "What is that?" And she said, "It's a dream pipe," which her partner, who made them out of the local cactus stock in Arizona, called them. And so I said, "Play it for me." And she played it, and as soon as I heard that sound, it was like a key turned and unlocked something inside of me. I never heard or seen a didgeridoo in '92. It wasn't really a very common instrument. But I never seen it, but that sound, I knew that sound. And what it did is it connected me back to this place that I went when I had my near-death experience. And it's not per se a sound. It's a place and it's a field. And we think of sound as something you hear with your ears. But this was, there are no words to describe this experience. However, the didgeridoo, and as I started to learn to play it, incorporate it into my life, it was the closest channel I had to reconnect to that experience. And it was interesting, then I started to study the Aboriginal Teachings, and they're just an amazing culture, the oldest culture in the world, and very deeply connected to the cosmos. And they say, well, the sound connects you to the dream time, which is where the ancestors live, which is where we go when we die. And so, you know, when you have a near-death experience and then you come back, it's agonizing to be back in the world of form and decay and what we call samsara, where you know that everything is temporary and we have to go through that process, you know, but it wasn't my time. But the didgeridoo became my anchor. And I played it, I carried it. I mean, to this day, I always have the didgeridoo. This has been 20 plus years by my side. And I play it all the time. And so 20 years of playing this experience, playing this instrument, I think opened the door to something that's a relatively new experience for me, which is the Nada Brahma, which is another layer of the sound current. And it's actually closest, even closer than the didgeridoo, to a living experience of where I went when I died. And, well, I'm actually skipping ahead. But I just want to go to the next slide, which is Jaguar Medicine is the archetype of an energy that shows us the way beyond death. And this medicine has become very prevalent in my life too. But just little images to plant the seeds. Beautiful creatures, but they walk between the worlds. And, okay, so now after my near-death experience, I moved to Hawaii, and I was guided to study acupuncture. And in acupuncture school, I met Jonathan Goldman, who became my friend and mentor, and he introduced me to the concept of sound as medicine, so that my path was slowly being directed toward, you know, what am I really here to do? What is my heart, not my mind, calling me? What's my dharma? And that's what started to awaken in my near-death experience. And one of the gifts of living in Hawaii is the connection to water, which is the Tao, and I was in a Taoist Chinese school. And so just to tune in to the way water moves, the water imitates the torus of the geometry of the space-time. It's what gives us life. And the other part that Hawaii brought into my life is and the didgeridoo at the same time, because that was still new to me when I moved there, was the breath. The breath is considered by every culture in the world the same name for the breath and spirit. They're the same word. In English, we call it breath and spirit. So, you know, in the Western mind, we separate the two. We don't connect how important our breathing is. And I realized when I started to play the didgeridoo, I'm not breathing. I breathe really shallowly. And to take the breath into my body was years of work. It still is. It's every breath needs to be conscious and full. And in Hawaii, they called white people haulis, but it's actually ha'ole. Ha'ole means without breath. So it's kind of a derogatory term, you know, like we don't have a spirit in a way. And it's not that we don't have a spirit, it's we're just not really connected to the spirit. And that's what I realized with my near-death experience. It was like, if I don't live, I don't want to be here. I don't belong in this world if I don't follow my heart and do whatever it is. I didn't even know what it was. I was 21 and I was like a baby again. But so the breath and the sound of the didgeridoo was my guide. And at this point, I want to introduce something. It's a prayer, actually. And this is, I was raised Jewish and Buddhist, but very open-minded. We weren't really a culture that had a specific, like, you are this. It's just like open-minded, not really spiritual, but family and, that kind of thing was my background. So I never studied the teachings of Jesus or Christ or any of this. But my last name is Arem, and in Kauai I met someone who is teaching Aramaic language, who is reviving the original teachings of Jesus, who is like Buddha or Muhammad, an awakened being. And he spoke Aramaic, which is a language very much like Sanskrit. It's a multidimensional, very deep, expressive language that encodes so much more than English. In English, we have to say all these words to say this little thing. And in Aramaic, it's all right there. And so I started to study this. My last name is Arem, so I was like, okay, well, maybe there's a connection. It just interested me. So this is actually the Lord's Prayer, written in a circular form in the Aramaic language. But what I like to do as I studied this, I like to recite it for you in English and Aramaic. And I think you'll see why. When you hear, like I had kind of heard the Lord's Prayer, but it never really stuck with me, anything about it. But when I heard the direct translation from Aramaic to English, it was like, this is everyone's prayer. It's the most beautiful, deep, multidimensional prayer that, I've been using it since I've learned it in many contexts. Inside, it's a mantra. And I love how he refers to sound. And you'll see why I'm presenting it in the context of the Nada Brahma as I recite this to you. So I'm just going to play in the background a little bit of another tone. We've got many tones going. And the reason I'm doing all of this preview stuff is because I think it will set a foundation for when we get into the deeper layers of what my talk is about today. You'll be able to tune in to all the words are just pointing. They're the fingers pointing, but they're just the words. So it's to something that's beyond words, absolutely. But so as I recite this prayer, I'm going to first do the English and then in Aramaic. And I would ask you to just close your eyes and breathe. And just according to the Aramaic thinking, every being has a unique vibration. They were very much into the vibratory essence of beings and of things. They called it Shem. And each person, each piece of the divine, which we all are, has a unique vibration. And you could actually connect to that person's vibration, not just through their name, but through their words. And so the idea with these teachings that these words, if they're passed down in their integral, non-distorted form, you can actually connect to the original consciousness of that being. So that, I think, is the intention of this prayer. And that is my intention for sharing it with you. So if you just close your eyes and breathe. Just breathe into your nose, deep into your belly. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos, the breathing life of all, creator of the shimmering sound that touches us. Focus your light within us. Make it useful as the rays of a beacon show the way. Help us to breathe one holy breath, feeling only you. This creates a shrine inside in wholeness. Your name, your sound, can move us if we tune our hearts as instruments for its tone. Let your counsel rule our lives, creating and sharing our intention for co-creation. From this divine union, let us create new images for a new world of peace. Let all wills move together in your vortex as stars and planets swirl through the sky. As we find your love in ours, let heaven and nature form a new creation. Grant us the food and insight we need to grow through each new day, through each illumination of life's needs. Loose the cords of mistakes binding us as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. Let not surface things delude us, but free us from what holds us back from our true purpose. From you is born the ruling will to do, the song that beautifies all. From age to age it renews. Out of you, the astonishing fire, the birthing glory, returning light and sound to the cosmos. Again and again, from each universal gathering of creatures, nations, planets, time, and space to the next. Truly, power to these statements. May they be the ground from which all my actions grow. Sealed in trust and faith. Amen. Abund bashmaya, nekadishumach, tete malkutach, nachwe sibiana ikana, dubashmaya af ba'ar ah, havlon lachma, dusun kanan yaumana, wash boklein chau bain wach dehain, ikana dafchanan shwakanol chayabain. Wela tatlan linasuna, ela patsan min bisha, metul delachi malchuta, wachayla watesh buchta. Le'alam, amin, amen. So, thank you for joining me in that prayer. I'm going to pass out. I'm not going to pass out, although I am known to at times. But I don't know if I brought enough of these flyers. So, well, Share? Okay. I'm not good at this part, the materials and getting my CDs out there. And why don't we just pass them around? And I will have most of these on slides. But what this is, if you can just pass them backwards. The idea was to put a compilation of all the different ways that cultures around the world have referred to Nada Brahma, the sound current. We'll begin. Now, like I said, most of these quotes, not all of them, but almost all of them are on slides. So, and if you didn't get one and you want one, just come to me afterwards and I'll email it to you, because I do have it. Just give me your email address. That's the way we'll take care of it. So I love this koan makes sense to me But not, even though I've been doing this work with sound for 20 years, it didn't make sense until the last year. And what happened to me, and like I said, well, what I'm presenting today is actually not something I usually present because it's so new in my life. I usually teach didgeridoo workshops or do sound journeys or talk about sound for healing, that kind of thing. But today's topic, I feel, is one that needs to come more into the mainstream, and I'll share why. A year ago on the 4th of July, I'm going to shorten this story also, but I did an exchange with a man who is from India, and he travels around doing these light activations. His name is Kiara Windrider. I had never heard of him before. It just synchronously brought us together. And we did a trade. I did a sound session, and he did this activation. He doesn't touch your body, but he works in the head field, and is supposed to awaken dormant centers of the brain, basically. I'm summarizing his work, but amazing man, very humble, and a dear friend now. So, oh, now you're hearing something else, but that's not supposed to happen. This is actually the sound of the Sri Yantra that Jeffrey Thompson did a translation of, which we saw before one of the slides. But I wasn't going to play it just yet. Well, that's all right. We'll go back to the water. So when he finished this activation, I'm sitting there, and within a minute, I started to hear this sound. And it's like, I would call it a sound, but it's not a sound because I hear it better with my ears plugged. So it's like, but it's like a sound. And I said, I'm hearing a sound. And he said in his Indian accent, oh, that's the sound of the silence or something like that. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, like I hear sounds that are above the hearing range, but they come and go. Like since I was a kid, I would hear these frequencies, and I think a lot of people do, but they would never like just stay. They would like come in one ear and then 20 seconds, different tones. This one's like really, really, really high, and it kept going, and I'm like, this is interesting. So the next day it's still going, and I start to like worry. I'm like, is this gonna stop? You know, like I was starting to get like my nervous system, I was getting eye twitches and my solar plexus. Over the next few weeks, I started to have all these weird things with my nervous system. So I think I was just adjusting because the sound did not stop. And this has been over a year now, and it hasn't stopped. And so after I got through the way I got through my starting to fear it phase was I got in a forum of Kriya and Kundalini. It was some blog that I just went down the rabbit hole of Google, you know, the sound, and then there's all this stuff on tinnitus and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh no, that's a problem. And then I realized, oh, this is not a problem. This is like something that back in the day, this is what they would teach you in these deep esoteric levels of mystery schools. They would teach people how to tune into this sound. And, you know, what my sense is that this is going to happen more and more on the planet, is people are going to start to hear this sound naturally. And I think it's already been happening, and then Western medicine says, well, it's tinnitus and you should try to repress it, although you can't, actually. I think it's a sign of a global spiritual awakening, personally. But anyway, so I've gone through quite a journey since the sound started. A lot of new information has come into my life since then, and I really welcome it at this point. So some of these quotes that are on that sheet of paper, the sound is the source of all manifestation. The knower of the mystery of sound knows the mystery of the whole universe. These are just taken from various traditions. First of all, you must use your ears to take some of the burden from your eyes. We have been using our eyes to judge the world since the time we were born. We talk to others and ourselves mainly about what we see. A warrior always listens to the sounds of the world. And then these are the different names that have been given to the sound current. And every culture refers to sound as creating the world. The Hopi and the Aztec and the Mayans, they call it the sound of the creator, anahata nadam, unlimited tone or no instrument, because there's nothing producing this sound. It's arising. It's just there. And so the tone that fills the cosmos, the word in the Bible, we call it the logos, the divine word. Pythagoras called it the music of the spheres. The Hindu, they call it the unstruck melody, voice of the heavens. Lao Tzu, the unimpeded harmony. The great tone is the source of all things. The Sikhs refer to the cosmic tone as the foundation of their teachings, or Aum is also called the sound of God. And by the Vedas, this is the closest sound. Aum or Om, we also say, is the closest to the true nature of the sound current. The great tone has an inaudible sound. And it's very strange because we perceive it as sound, but it's not something you hear with your ears. And I'll get into what I discovered recently about this later, with these other faculties that can come on to line. This is a picture of Plato, and he said that earthly music is an imitation of celestial music. So the music of the spheres are harmonics within the sound current. So everything in the cosmos is creating sound, and yet it may not be in, like there's more light than the visible spectrum, but there is also more sound than the audible spectrum. However, it is possible to start to tune into these other faculties that can perceive this. So here's some images. Sometimes a picture is worth more than the words. And in a little bit, in a few minutes after I do some more mind information, we're going to go into some experiences. And for me, the primary tool has been the didgeridoo, and specifically the Crystal Didgeridoo, which I believe is what has opened my faculties to hear it. But if you listen to the sound of the didgeridoo, it's very, very much like this sound that can be perceived, except step down maybe 20 octaves or something. It's hard to tell what note it is. It's not per se a note. Let me see. I have until 5:30. Is 5:30? 5:45? 40, okay, good. Is this like, okay, too much information? Should we go into some sound? Yes. Go into some sound? Okay. I'm a Gemini, I can get into the mind thing pretty much. So, and then we'll come back to some more things I want to share with you about that. I love harmonic-based instruments because, to me, the overtones on top of the fundamental tone, which is the didgeridoo has a fundamental tone, and on top of it are all these overtones. To me, that's how we tune into the other subtle realms beyond what we normally hear. There's almost, you can hear them, but you feel them more than actually perceive them with your ears. The crystal bowls also have a wonderful range of harmonics and overtones, and Tibetan bowls and Tibetan bells. I normally have a huge variety of instruments to play, but because I flew in and they're large, I didn't really bring so many. But the main one that I do use is the Crystal Didge, and I brought that. And what I'm going to ask you to do before I play is to just kind of, well, I'm going to turn down the water. We can't really turn down that sound. But for you, before I play, just for a few minutes, to go back into your breathing and close your eyes. And as well as you can, and then you won't be able to hear me, don't do it just yet. Stick your fingers in your ears. And don't do it just yet because I want to explain. We're just going to do this for maybe a minute, not a super long time. And then I'll ring, if you can hear it, I'll ring the bowl as the time to come back out. So we'll go into some of the the didgeridoo sound. But what I'm going to ask you to do, and we're going to do this again later, but so it's just like a reference point. So when you put your fingers in your ears, you'll hear maybe your respiration, you'll hear, if you hear your heartbeat, you might hear some of the background tone. I'm not sure how well it will block out. But what I want you to do is just start to listen. And like we hear mostly, but listening is something that is a moment-to-moment experience that we have to cultivate. So what I mean by listen is see if you can tune into a sound that's going on in the background. Some of you might already be hearing this. A lot of people I talk to are like, oh, I thought it was, a problem, like I did. But if you're not hearing already this high-pitched sound, which is beyond the hearing range, so it's not sound, but that's the English words we have. So we're just going to take a minute for you to see if you can listen to this sound that I feel like it is the geometry of the space. And the geometry of the space is is in movement somehow. And that's creating a tone. And there's a way for us to tune into that. And so let's try that now. Plug your ears, and for about a minute, just tune in. All right, so Nate, you can take your fingers out, and just as a reference point, now I'm going to play for maybe 5 minutes or so. And at the end of this, at the silence, if you could just listen, you can plug your ears or not, but see if this sound, which to me is, like I said, very similar to that sound, that the unstruck chord, but it's in the silence that you might hear it afterwards. And it's interesting because before I play, I always listen. And then I learned that the Aboriginals do this as well. Before they play the didgeridoo, they would listen. It's because all sound comes from the silence. So to listen to the silence is the first step. So now we've had a reference point. After I stop playing, we're just going to sit in silence for a minute for you to tune in, and you can try plugging your ears or not. Maybe I can mute this. So, was anyone able to have a new experience with tuning into some other frequencies that you don't normally pay attention to so far today? And how was, do you want to share just how your experience of that?
I actually felt like I lost the first time you had us close our ears. I felt like, oh, there it is, and I heard the thing appear.
Yes.
And then after, I feel like the dig was so much stimulation, that it took me a while to kind of process and start to let it go and look for that thing again.
So it was easier for you to tune in just by going in with your ears plugged into the silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about you? Said something too.
I felt something like a sound building.
Hmm.
Really low.
Uh-huh.
And then it would go away.
So was it a very low sound or?
Kind of a lower
Okay.
sound.
Yeah, it's interesting because before I started to hear this sound, about 2 years, I started to hear this sound that was a very low sound that my partner, no one could hear on the land where we live. And it was keeping me up at night. And I was like, it's not me because it's only in certain parts of the land. And so we finally had someone come and measure with a device, and they said, yep, it's like 18 hertz or something. It was not too far below, but that's what preceded the upper range opening up. And so I think that the opening of, I thought of it as the third ear, but then as I started to study, let's see if I can find the slide. I'm going to skip these. Go to this one. This is the Vishuddha chakra. This is the throat chakra. And according to the Gnostic teachings, they call it the magic ear. I had never heard about it. We think of the pineal gland as the third eye. But the magic ear is the throat chakra, when the throat chakra opens, which I feel the didgeridoo has been doing that for me. I was always kind of like never, I was always closed in my throat chakra, and I feel playing it for years opened that up. And so what they say about that is that once that is opened, you can start to not only hear subsonic sounds and supersonic sounds, but you can also interpret the scriptures, which are the teachings from different cultures, and there's information encoded in them, but you won't necessarily understand it. And some of the, I don't have a slide for this, except this one, is from Proverbs 1:5, he that is wise will hear. Or blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. But verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous people have desires to see those things which you see and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear and have not heard them. That's from Matthew 13. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, there's many mysterious kind of sayings that allude to, if you have an ear, and this is Milarepa, showing there's a scroll hanging by his ear. So there's the teachings, and in the teachings are encoded information. So the magic ear, what they call, the Gnostics call it the magic ear, but is the ability not only to hear, but you're not hearing with your ears, just like if you see auras, you're not seeing with your eyes, but you can interpret this information beyond the words. It's kind of encoded in the words. And what I think, who is it, Jeffrey Thompson, or was today, maybe it was Don Estes, was talking about intention and how the primordial creation isn't only vibration. It's actually, before the vibration is intention. So the words and the sounds of the words are the carrier of the intention. And ultimately what I feel this Nada Brahma is the mind of the creator, of which we all come from and we forget. And for me, my near-death experience and my awakening was a little remembering, like, oh yeah, okay. As we get older from birth and we go through, we're in this Kali Yuga of materialism and forgetting, and we kind of go to sleep. It's like a winter of consciousness for this planet. So I feel the importance of this sound and tuning back into it, and what it's been doing for me is it connects me back to the source. And we all can hear it, it's just we don't perceive it. That, I mean, we're all hearing it all the time, but we're not hearing it. The words are, don't work really. But I think you understand kind of what I'm alluding to, I hope, because there aren't really words for this. Was there anybody else that wanted to share with it? Yeah.
I heard right after the didgeridoo stopped, I heard 8 minutes at a high pitch. It was in the audible range, and I've never heard that after hearing didgeridoo, but I've never heard a crystal didgeridoo, so that was a neat, cool experience.
Huh. Wow.
But I didn't, then plugging the ears, I didn't hear that. That lasted for a while and then dissipated.
Mm-hmm.
And then just went back to the normal high pitch sound I've heard since my 20s.
Oh, you've heard that your whole life?
Yeah.
Wow. I think, well, and from what some of the mystical traditions say about this is that this has been kept hidden knowledge for thousands and thousands of years, and only the inner circles of the esoteric mystery schools would even reveal to you that there was this thing that you could learn how to tune into. But what they're saying is that we live in a time right now where more and more people are just going to start to hear it because the frequency, the consciousness of the planet is awakening, and that we actually need to bring out this teaching so people don't pathologize it, which is what is happening a lot. Like, oh, it's like I even thought, and I'm not Western science minded anymore. Since my awakening, I don't really buy into that, but I was reading the material and it's like, oh, it's a problem, tinnitus and all this, and it's actually something that we should welcome. And it's not a problem if you don't hear it, but if you want to hear it, it's available. It is available, but you need to be ready to incorporate it into your life as well. Even for me, it was an adjustment after having done sound for so many years. It still was something like, wow, this is not going to stop now. I can't not hear this sound. So, yeah, what were you saying?
I was wondering if the didgeridoo vibrated the crystal bowl at some point. Was it interacting with it? Because I heard high vibration also, but I was thinking that maybe it was very close to the bowl.
I was playing this bowl during and it was going. It is this kind of the same note almost. Now, if you look into literature of what this sound, how they describe this sound, it may not, to me it sounds like a didgeridoo, but way high. But some people say, well, it sounds like crickets or cicadas or the ocean sound. Or it may go through phases of, as you start to hear it, it may change. Some people say it sounds like a bell. Or I would think more like probably the overtones of a bell. And I feel like these kind of tools can help us to start to listen differently. Open up these other overtones that we don't normally have in our modernized society. We have 60 cycle hertz and electrical hums and cars, but the sound of even just listening to water, just that sound alone can tune you into this sound current. I also brought some other instruments. Some people say it sounds like a flute. Normally when I play instruments, it's a very different context. Everyone's lying on the floor and it's a whole journey. So I wasn't kind of sure how to do that today, of like how to incorporate some of the instruments that I play in a way that you can really receive them. Which ideally is horizontally and you're just in your own inner space. Because it's not like I don't want to be here performing for you. But I did bring some other instruments that I use, and this is an Aboriginal bull roarer, and this is just the spiraling sound of moving air. I can, play this for you. I'm just a little concerned about what I might hit, so let me turn this off for a second. I don't know how far it will transmit back the sound, but I think you'll get an idea of what it's doing. It's not going in. And I feel like when I work with bull roar, B-U-L-L-R-O-A-R-E-R, bull roar. And I just want to show a couple more slides. We're probably all here aware of the chakras and the 7 main energy centers in the body. And what the purpose, what I feel of awakening these other senses, including the magic ear and the third eye of the pineal gland above the heart, is that for us to remember and reconnect to the cosmos and remember who we are, or become awakened, which is what Buddha said, I'm just awakened. That's what his description of himself was, is to raise this primal energy that moves in a spiraling, like the way sound moves. It moves up our spine. It's our Kundalini energy. And working with sound and focusing on the third eye while you're breathing and toning is another way to tune into the sound current. And this is an exercise we'll do in just a moment. And you can also do this more comfortably, probably at home on your own, if you just want to incorporate it into your, if you have a practice, a meditative practice. But just, these are some just quick slides. This is the field of our heart is mimicking the space-time geometry, which I feel is what the sound is. It's that movement. It's the way water moves. It actually creates a current, just like electricity. If you can sometimes hear that electrical buzzing, it's a current. It's the sound of movement of electrons, of energy in the third dimension. I think there in other planes and dimensions, we may not hear it per se, but while we're in bodies, we can tune into the space-time matrix through this sound. And a lot of this is what I'm getting from the inside, or synthesizing after years of studying these different things. So I'm not saying this is the only truth that there is, but you have your heart has a radar of knowing what the truth is for you. If any of this is useful, then I will have fulfilled my purpose here. These are just some more images of the movement of the Kundalini energy. So if you use toning, breathing, meditation, if you contract the root chakra and you look up with your eyes toward your pineal gland while you're toning, or listening even, if you're not even making a sound, just listening, you can activate this channel. We all have this channel. It's going all the time. It's just maybe is not as vitalized if we're not working with it and tuning into it. These are just some more images from different perspectives, the awakening. And what I found was interesting, this slide, that's actually what our pineal gland looks like. So that might be one of the Egyptian teaching. And it's interesting because this man that I met, Kiara Windrider, the teachings that he had been studying, that I had been studying, was another, we came together synchronistically, and I didn't know anyone who had been studying this material that's very hard to find, about the deeper layers of the Egyptian mysteries and why we're really here. And the whole mummification and the winged Osiris are allegories to the human going through an awakening process, and that eventually, and we have many lifetimes to do this, we are meant to basically graduate from cyclical existence, and then we can choose to incarnate into the third dimension, to these bodies, as a master or as a bodhisattva, or move on as a winged being in other realms. And so it's interesting that these teachings of the Egyptians were very similar to our, I want to show you this last slide. The butterfly is the winged Osiris is another allegory of the human transforming, going through a transformation process. The butterfly releases in its body a chemical, that is very chemically similar to a substance that we can release from different parts of our brain, different glands in our brain, when they come into coherence. And some of the Egyptian mystery school practices were how to activate these brain centers that included the pineal, but were not only the pineal. And this would begin a metamorphic process in the human. That if ideally we do it before we die, but it could also happen once we die, and in that kind of transition bardo state, we could emerge as a transformed being, either into the next realm of existence, like the winged Osiris, or come back as an awakened being by choice. And so it was interesting that this man who I met, Kiara Windrider, and when he did this activation, it began this process. And that's what I have been seeking. And I think many of us in this life, especially on the path of self-realization or studying these more esoteric things, are really seeking for these keys that have been hidden or buried and are now being revived. I'm like, how do we, if we want to achieve our fullest potential in this lifetime, how do we do it? And I think that, the bigger goal of why I feel I had my near-death experience and what I want to bring into the world, as many of us are awakening to, is to help humanity through this birthing process we're in, to help, through myself achieving this, but helping others to realize ourselves. Because as a species, I think we're meant to move into a new phase of evolution that involves the group mind. And I found that using sound and toning and in training to a field, a harmonized field with intention, is one of the best ways to achieve unity consciousness in a group of people. And what I've also heard, according to some of the more advanced civilizations that have visited Earth, that's what we need to attain to move to the next level of evolution, is the group mind. Still retaining individuality, but somehow recognizing that we're all one being and that we need to operate like, so I study molecular biology, and it was a great foundation for the philosophy that I have. I see us each as cells in the body of a larger organism, and all the cells help each other and they exchange information and energy, but they work together as a unified being. And that's what what we need to do as a species to move to the next level of our evolution. So for me, sound has been my way to tune into the group mind, to get out of the ego. I mean, it's not like we won't have an ego, it's just we won't feel separate. And so when people tone together, what I like to do, and what I would like to do, actually, for our closing, what I do with any group, and usually it's in the context of a sound journey, so we've all gone through this experience together, is do a global unified toning together for a few minutes, and we conspire, we bring our voices together. Ideally, we're sitting in a circle. I don't really like this setup because I don't like to feel separate, when we're in a circle, it's easier for me to, I'm teaching you something you don't know already or whatever. But we're going to do with what we have here. And I like to close with that, because that is my deepest prayer of anything that I do, is that we can find that unity together and remember that our voice and our breath, as Don Estes was saying, 85% of our voice is our breath, which is our spirit. See, but like I said, in English, we separate spirit from breath. So if we remember our spirit, our breath is our spirit. So when we're toning together, when we're singing together, or even when we're talking with each other, we're sharing our spirit, the one holy breath that connects us all. And I really also believe in the power of group conspiracy, the group breathing prayer together, and the power to send that to all our relations, to all of our loved ones who aren't here in the room with us physically, but we are connected to the land that we're on, to our ancestors that are guiding us, to the nature spirits that were here before we built this building, that we can use this final moment together to amplify with our intention, send this prayer out into the world. I would like to take questions, but I would also like to make sure we have a few minutes to do that. So are there any burning questions before we do the final closing?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, yes.
When you're hearing the sound current, how are you perceiving it, like on a cognitive level? I mean, is it giving you information, or is it?
Yes, I would say it's Gnostic. And by Gnostic, I mean it's like it's beyond the mind. And for me, my mind can be really strong. Just the way my training and my Gemini and all that stuff, my family is very cognitive. So what I like about it is it's beyond the mind, and it filters in through my life through synchronicities. And the pieces, it comes through the outer and the inner. Just there's it's very hard to put into words, but there's so much new information has come in since this sound. There's always new information, especially the world we live in, but this is different. This is definitely, I'm being downloaded with something. And I
think it's bringing you, giving you a deeper connection?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Deeper also, they say know thyself. There's that saying over at Delphi, know thyself. It's definitely helping me to know myself in a different way, like where all these stuff that's only unique to myself, and everybody has that self. But then ultimately that's the big self. So knowing thyself connects us to the big self. And that's the ultimate meaning of that. It's like once you know who you are, then you don't need to separate. You realize, oh, I'm you, and I am you, and we're all one. And that's that's the goal. That's heaven on earth, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Was there another question before we do our few Om toning? Yeah.
Question. I just wanted to acknowledge back to the didgeridoo and the ringing in the ears.
Yeah.
I always have ringing in my ears, have for many years.
Yeah.
And after you finished and the last tone came out of the instrument, I had left and right syncopating my ringing with your sound from the didgeridoo.
Wow.
And now it's like really loud.
Oh, sorry.
But I found that to be interesting.
But I would just say that I want to plant the seed. If you talk to people, some people might not talk about it, and if this starts to happen for you, just welcome it. I mean, at first, I have to say I really did struggle with it. And I've been doing sound for a long time. So I can imagine people who don't have a foundation, they just start to hear it. But I want to plant this seed of this is what we want. We want us to tune back into the sound of creation and use that to reconnect, to allow it to flow through us. And I think it's going to help us to move to the next level as a species. Everybody just tuning in to our source, which we are all the one source. And that's what it reminds us of. That's what my awakening reminded me of. This is just a deeper level of okay, how to talk about this and cognize it, and what's your piece to bring to the whole. Everyone has a specific piece. Like every cell in our body has a specific function that's just as important as any other cell. But we all need to work together like a unified body. And we absolutely have to do this as a species. Otherwise, it's like failed experiment. I do think it's an option. There are many possible realities. But that's the reality I think I would like to focus on, is us collectively moving to this new level of heaven on earth. I do think it's our destiny, but I do think we have choice too. We do have free will. It's a blessing and curse of planet Earth, So that would be my vote, is let's uplift each other. And so we have a few minutes. What I'd like to do is we'll use the bowls. And let's see if we can get some water sound going. We're going to need the little things here. All right, so I am going to do a prayer, a short prayer that I inherited from my Hawaiian lineage. It's the English version of the Ho'oponopono. And from that, we'll just go into our closing toning together. And when we do this toning, I'll ask you to share your voices. And more than the sound of your voice, send your intention, your love, your healing to the earth, to your loved ones, to the plants, to the animals, to the elements, to anywhere, to Japan, to the Pacific, and visualizing this planet rejuvenated, healthy, connected, transforming, like the butterfly, that we are meant to become a transformed species. Great Spirit, Divine Creator, Mother, Father, Son, and Daughter as one. We are here on behalf of ourselves, our families, our friends, our relatives, ancestors, persons, places, things, both named and beyond name, from the beginning of time to the present. If there are any earthbound or not, spirits, entities, energies, thoughts, feelings, words, deeds, actions, or intentions, which in any way inhibit, resist, or restrict the free flow of life force here and now. Humbly, we ask forgiveness on our behalf. And we ask and intend that these energies be released now. And that they are transmuted and transformed into harmony with the essential fabric of life, embracing the qualities of beauty, clarity, truth, health, happiness, harmony, divinity, grace, and unconditional love. Fill in the space any dissonant energies occupied with the most appropriate divine vibrations now. Surround us with 3 golden spheres of light, which merge our one heart, one and one within the one. Surround us with 7 rainbow spheres of light, which tone, clarify, and refine every aspect of our experience and our expression. Interpenetrate us, Great Spirit, with your dazzling diamond presence. Being is infused with the simple truth of unconditional love. In this vibration, all things are done, Divine Creator, that we are. Humbly, we remain in these qualities of beauty, clarity,